Welcome back to London Live News. Now, we're often told about the loneliness of the elderly, but one organisation in the capital is also shining a light on the younger population who are struggling. The Great London Friendship Project was set up back in 2021 to tackle social isolation and loneliness of youngsters in the capital. And after London was voted the loneliest city in the UK earlier this year, they're partnering with a host of organisations over the coming months to raise awareness and help those suffering in silence. Well, earlier I spoke to the project's founder and a volunteer about the campaign.
Youth loneliness has always been a problem. We've known since 2018 and the BBC loneliness experiment that young people are disproportionately affected by loneliness. And I think over the course of the pandemic, you saw communities dissolve, you saw friendship circles maybe waning over those 2 years because you've got limited social interaction, you've got people working from home for the first time. And so I suppose really it was a case of seeing that huge amount of need amongst the young adults, particularly sort of after you've left education, who just simply didn't have anywhere to go simply to connect, make new friends. There's obviously a range of sort of sports clubs, faith groups, but nothing out there just simply for young people who want to get to know other people, start building their social circles after the pandemic, and I suppose find that sense of belonging, which sometimes is quite hard to find in a big city like London.
And over the coming months, you've got a new initiative and you're teaming up with universities, charities, NHS bodies, aren't you? So can you tell me a little bit more about that campaign? Yeah,
so we're hoping to work with a range of different bodies to try and identify those young people who kind of most in need, hopefully reach those people who maybe at at crossroads and maybe heading towards more serious mental health issues if they don't get the support they need. And so we're working closely with them. We're also, the university is hoping to develop a real research project to start analysing the impact of the support we provide, and hopefully be able to roll out this sort of support on a national scale so that young people across the UK can start have access to this, what we believe is a vital source of support, and start hopefully making a societal change really around these issues of youth loneliness.
Right, let's bring in Tom now, who's a volunteer at the project, because I want to talk about, you're one of many boots on the ground for this. So can you just tell me how bad youth loneliness is at the moment?
Yeah, it's horrendous, and I think that came to the forefront during the pandemic. We really took our connections and our friendships for granted, I guess, and especially in London, it's a big, beautiful city. However, it can be really lonely, and I think the importance of those friendships and connections have shone through when we realised that we don't have access to them anymore.
We hear about the elderly being lonely all the time, but what are some of the stories or people that you've spoken to and those stories have really resonated with you?
I could relate to my own story. I came to London in 2019, just before the pandemic hit, and I came here, fell in love, then fell out of love, and really sort of took an inventory of what I wanted to get out of living in this beautiful city, and friendships was on top of the list. I'm going to admit it. I was very lonely during the pandemic. I was even lonelier after this relationship, and with the Great London Friendship Project, going out exploring the city on these walks, going to different events, it was a great way to do that and not feel so alone doing it, and that's what friends are for.
Well, that's one thing I was going to ask you about. How do you, with this project, reach out to certain people? Because a lot of people out there won't initially make that step. That's always the hardest part, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. And I think I've spoken to a lot of people that come to the group, the Great London Friendship Project, and they've all said it's just taking that first initial step, because everything in your mind is going to be telling you, like, you don't do it, like, it's too nerve-wracking, like, why don't you just stay at home, watch a movie? But it's just having that confidence, and I thoroughly believe, we have hundreds of people joining these groups on a weekly basis, and I thoroughly believe everyone has the capabilities to go out there and make friends and make some really great memories.
So I'll bring David back in now, and you touched upon it earlier, David, because you said that it's not always, it has always been a problem, youth loneliness, but we're only really told about the elderly being lonely. Where does the sort of mental health awareness in recent years as well come into that, and it becoming, raising awareness of youth loneliness?
Whilst we've made real progress in terms of talking about mental health, I think there is still a huge stigma around youth loneliness. There was actually the government published a rapid evidence assessment about 3-4 weeks ago now, and they said that young people are most likely to self-stigmatize, which is a really big problem because it means that not only young people are not seeking help, they're not talking about it, and they also think it's their fault if they're lonely. And that obviously goes down a really bad path towards like negative self-image, low self-worth, and all sorts of a range of different other mental health issues. And as you say, elderly have always been kind of prioritized and because of that image of what a lonely person is, when actually I think we really need to help young people be able to talk about it and be able to move forward with those particular issues.
The Great London Friendship Project there, raising awareness of youth loneliness in the capital. And if you want to find out more about their initiative in the coming months, you can go to their websites.